Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news untold stories. I am Oyin Okpala. Let's begin. Tragedy in Bamenda as two siblings lose their lives after being swept away by flood waters, with residents renewing calls for improved drainage infrastructure. In Nwa, tensions rise as residents stage protests over the kidnapping of a community leader amid growing insecurity concerns. Meanwhile, allegations of extortion and delayed allowances by Census workers in Menchum Valley, raising questions about the management of the ongoing census exercise. And in Boyer, Bishop Michael Mabiasu Bibi calls on the faithfuls to respect priest's commitment to celibacy and support the church in safeguarding the dignity of the priesthood. All these and more we have on tonight's Undaunted, but first, let's get the prime headlines. Here are the prime headlines. Two siblings swept away by floodwaters in Bamenda. Bodies recovered. Also tonight, residents protest in Nwa over kidnapping of community leaders. Menchum Valley Census workers allege extortion on paid salaries as delays persist. Boya Bishop Bibi calls for respect of priest celibacy, urges faithfuls to protect them. On the African scene, Burkina Faso added to Global Human Rights Watch list over crackdown on civil society, while EU interior ministers convene emergency meeting as sexual migrant surge sparks political tensions. Now let's get the news in full briefings. A heartbreaking tragedy has struck the entire Income neighborhood in Bamenda after two young siblings were swept away by flood waters on Sunday, leaving their family and the community in deep mourning. The victims have been identified as 7-year-old Azamarir and 5-year-old brother, Sir Emmanuel. Their bodies were recovered on Monday morning from the Mulang swamp by the Army Rescue Unit under the leadership of Senior Warrant Officer Taku Paul after an extensive research. According to eyewitnesses' account, the tragic incident began when Maria's shoe was swept away by fast-moving flood waters following heavy rains. In an attempt to retrieve it, the 7-year-old reportedly ventured too close to the swollen stream and was caught by the powerful currents. Seeing his sister being carried away, 5-year-old Sir Emmanuel is said to have rushed into the water in a desperate effort to save her. However, he too was overwhelmed by the strong current and both children disappeared beneath the flood waters. The disappearance of the siblings triggered frantic rescue efforts by residents and security personnel, but hopes of finding them alive faded as the research continued into Monday morning. Their bodies were eventually discovered in the Mulang swamp by members of the Army Rescue Unit. The children's mother has been left devastated by the loss and has remained inconsolable since the incident. Family members, neighbors, and well-wishers have gathered to comfort the grieving family as news of the tragedy spread across the community. The incident has renewed concerns over the dangers posed by flooding in Bamenda. During the rainy season, residents have called for greater public awareness, improved drainage infrastructure, and stronger safety measures to prevent similar tragedies, particularly the ones involving children living near flood-prone areas. Authorities have urged residents and parents' guidance to keep children away from swollen streams, rivers, and flood waters, warning that even seemingly shallow, fast-moving waters can quickly become deadly. Away from that, residents of Unwas in Donga Mountain County of southern Cameroon took to the streets on Sunday, August 2nd, to protest the kidnapping of prominent community leader Pa Lucas Kawase, demanding swift action from authorities to secure his release. The demonstrators marched through the area to the office of the divisional officer, carrying placards and chanting messages calling on the government and security forces to intensify efforts to rescue the abducted leader. The protest highlighted growing frustration over the deteriorating security in the area. Speaking during the demonstration, residents expressed concerns over the increasing number of kidnappings in the southern Cameroons, saying the persistent adoptions have created fear among local communities and disrupted daily life. They urged the authorities to strengthen security measures and implement effective strategies to curb the growing wave of criminal activities. The protesters also appealed for greater protection for community leaders and civilians, warning that continued insecurity could further undermine social and economic activities in the county. As of Monday, authorities had not released details regarding the circumstances surrounding Pa Lucas' adoption or identified those responsible. Neither has any group claimed responsibility for the kidnapping. The southern Cameroons have experienced years of insecurity linked to the ongoing war, with kidnappings for ransom and abductions of civilians, traditional leaders, and public officials becoming increasingly common. Residents say the latest incident shows the urgent need for stronger security intervention to restore peace and protect communities. Away from that, let's get to Menchum, where enumerators taking part in the Cameroon's 4th General Population and Housing Census and the General Census of Agriculture and Livestock in Menchum have accused a local census controller of extortion while complaining of months-long delays in the payment of their field allowances. The allegations were contained in a complaint obtained by Undaunted News, in which one enumerator who requested for anonymity for fear of victimization described growing frustration among field workers over unpaid entitlements and alleged misconduct by a supervisor. According to the enumerator, census workers underwent training in April before deployment on the 3rd of May. Although they have spent nearly 90 days carrying out field operations, they say they have been paid allowances covering only 40 days. The complainant further alleged that the local controller is demanding 20,000 francs CFA from each enumerator before releasing the electronic link required to sign an extension contract, a document workers say is necessary for the processing of their outstanding allowances. In addition to the alleged demand for money, the controller is also accused of repeatedly asking enumerators to buy him beer whenever allowances were paid. Several other field workers echoed concerns over delayed payments, telling newsmen that the prolonged wait for allowances, coupled with logistic challenges and other operational bottlenecks, has slowed the census exercise and affected staff morale. The payment delays comes as the nationwide census continues to experience setbacks. The Prime Minister has twice extended the enumeration period to allow the exercise to continue beyond its original schedule. The census controller accused in the complaint could not be reached for comment, while the National Institute of Statistics and other census authorities had not responded to the claim at the time of this report. Also tonight, the Bishop of Boyer, His Lordship Michael Maibusu Bibi, has called on women across the Diocese of Boyer to respect the commitment of Catholic priests to celibacy emphasizing that members of the clergy should be allowed to devote themselves fully to their religious vocation and pastoral responsibility without unnecessary distractions. The appeal was made during a pastoral engagement over the weekend, where the bishop used the opportunity to reaffirm the Catholic Church's long-standing teaching on priestly celibacy. He reminded the faithful that Catholic priests freely embrace a life of celibacy as part of their total dedication to God and the service of the Church, making them unavailable for marriage or romantic relationships. Addressing women seeking life partners, Bishop Bibi encouraged them to direct their attention towards eligible men within their communities rather than pursuing relationships with priests. He stressed that respecting the vocation of the clergy is a shared responsibility among the faithful and plays a vital role in safeguarding the spiritual mission of the Church. According to the bishop, protecting priestly celibacy enables priests to remain focused on their core responsibilities, including celebrating their sacraments, preaching the gospel, providing pastoral care, visiting the sick, counseling families, and responding to the spiritual needs of parishioners. He noted that preserving the integrity of the priesthood strengthens the Church's ability to carry its mission effectively. The bishop's remarks have generated widespread discussion among Catholics in Boyer and beyond, with many faithfuls describing the message as a timely reaffirmation of Church doctrine at a period when the clergy continues to face increasing pastoral demands. Within the Latin Rite of the Catholic Church, celibacy remains a long-standing discipline requirement, requiring priests to remain unmarried as a sign of their complete dedication to Christ and the Church. Church authorities maintain that the practice allows priests to dedicate themselves entirely to prayer, evangelization, pastoral ministry, and the service of the Christian community without the obligations associated with family life. Church leaders have also emphasized that the bishop's message should not be interpreted as a condemnation of women, but rather as a call for mutual respect, greater understanding of the priestly vocation, and recognition of the unique roles priests play within the Church. The appeal comes against the backdrop of the continuing socio-political crisis affecting southern Cameroon, where many priests serve communities facing displacements, insecurities, and humanitarian challenges. Church leaders have consistently acknowledged the heavy emotional, spiritual, and pastoral responsibilities borne by clergy ministering in these difficult circumstances, underscoring the need for sustained support from the faithful. Several parishioners who attended the pastoral engagement welcomed the bishop's address, addressing it as a necessary reminder of the importance of protecting the integrity of the priesthood and supporting priests in fulfilling their mission. Many noted that the Church depends on priests who are spiritually focused and fully available to serve the needs of the faithful. The Diocese of Boyer continues to implement formation, accompaniment, and support programs aimed at strengthening their spiritual life, resilience, and pastoral effectiveness of its clergy as they minister to parishioners across the region, despite the prevailing challenges. That's all we have for you from the home front. Right after the break, we'll head into the news across Africa, where the EU has backed political where ministers convene in margin meeting as settle migrant such sparks of political tensions. Well, Burkina Faso added to global human rights watch list over crackdown on civil society. Burkina Faso has been placed on an international human rights watch list following an intensified crackdown on civil society, political opposition, and independent voices under the country's military authorities. According to Civicus Monitor, at least 1,174 civil society organizations had been suspended or dissolved by the 11th of June 2026. The organization also reported that all political parties have been dissolved, while journalists, activists, and government critics have faced arrests, censorships, forced military conscription, and alleged forced disappearances. Civicus has classified Burkina Faso's civic space as repressed, its second worst rating, citing severe restrictions on freedom of expression, peaceful assembly, and association. The crackdown has affected human rights organizations, students groups, religious bodies, and media outlets. In May, the country's largest students' union was suspended after criticizing the government's handling of insecurity. The military authorities have also suspended the operations of the United Nations Human Rights Office, which is expected to close its Burkina Faso office by the 30th of November. Rights organizations have called on Captain Ibrahim's terrorist government to end the crackdown, restore civic freedoms, and allow independent organizations and journalists to operate without intimidation. So we come back right after this break. Would head into the court. The European Union Interior Ministers are set to hold an emergency meeting on Tuesday, August 4th, following the reported arrival of more than 50,000 migrants in Spain's North African enclave of Ceuta, a development that has intensified debate over the bloc's migration and border management policies. The extraordinary meeting comes as EU member states grapple with growing concerns over the security of the Union's external borders and the need for a coordinated response to large-scale migration movements. According to diplomatic sources, 22 member states have backed calls for stronger collective measures to protect Europe's borders and prevent similar crises in the future. The reported influx has placed enormous pressure on Spanish authorities, who have mobilized police and military personnel to restore order in Ceuta, one of two Spanish enclaves bordering Morocco. Officials said that most of the migrants who entered the territory have since returned to Morocco, although security forces remains on high alert as authorities continue to monitor the situation. The chaotic crossings reportedly resulted in dozens of deaths, with many people said to have drowned or been crushed as they attempted to reach the enclave. Rescue teams and emergency responders have been working to recover victims and assist survivors, while humanitarian organizations have expressed concern over the loss of life and the conditions faced by migrants during the incident. The crisis has also exposed divisions within the European Union over migration policy. Italy has reportedly taken the temporary step of suspending passport-free travel arrangements with Spain, citing security concerns, a move that has added to tensions between member states. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has defended his government's response, accusing some European partners of spreading misinformation about the situation and failing to demonstrate the solidarity expected among EU members during times of crisis. He has called for a united European approach that balances border security with humanitarian obligations. Migration has remained one of the European Union's most contentious political issues in recent years, with member states often divided over responsibility sharing, asylum procedures, and the protection of the bloc's external frontiers. The latest developments in CETA are expected to reignite discussions on reforming the EU's migration framework and strengthening cooperation with neighboring countries. During Tuesday's emergency meeting, ministers are expected to examine immediate measures to enhance border protection, improve coordination among member states, and develop a common strategy for responding to future migration emergencies. Discussions are also likely to focus on cooperation with Morocco and other neighboring countries to address the underlying factors driving irregular migration. The outcome of the meeting could shape the European Union's migration policy in the months ahead as leaders seek to balance humanitarian responsibilities with growing political pressure to tighten border controls. That's it for tonight's Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the news that made it to tonight's headlines. Tonight on Undaunted, 2 siblings have been swept away by flood waters in Bamenda. Bodies have been recovered. Also tonight, residents protest in Nwa over kidnapping of community leaders. Also tonight, Menchum Valley Census workers allege extortion, unpaid salaries, and delayed allowances. Boya Bishop Bibi calls for respect of priest celibacy, urges faithfuls to protect the priest. While on the African scene, Burkina Faso has been added to Global Human Rights Watch list over crackdown on civil society. While on the global scene, EU interior ministers convene emergency meeting as CETA migrant surge sparks political tensions. And that's it for tonight's Undaunted. Bringing you to the news untold stories. On behalf of the team behind tonight's production, it's good night and God bless you.